Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. I'm here with Russ Eddy today. And Russ, I want you to be able to tell people in some way what a couple days ago you sent me a text with a picture of an incredible, nice brook trout that you had just caught. And I want you to tell them what made that day so special for you. You don't have to tell them your spot.
Well, the thing that I think about, right after I think about that fish, because that was a beauty. That fish was probably 16-inch brook trout, and I caught another almost as big, and then I caught one out of the same pool that was like 6 inches. Imagine that. But what the thing about that day, and this is that just sticks with me, is the number of places in the North Country. How many times, folks, do you drive by a body of water and you just think about what kind of fish are in there? Pretty much every time. If you're for me, it's every body of water I go past. And unfortunately, I can't fish them all. But on this particular day, I knew of where a stream came next to the road, and I could get access to it pretty easily, which I did. And as I was fishing right by the road, I looked up river, and I knew I could not wade upriver. But upriver, there was a waterfall, a 3 or 4 foot waterfall, way up. But it was at a point where the river moved away from the road quite a bit. So, and I just knew I could not wade up the river because the river was deep and the boulders were big. So there was no way I'm getting up there unless I thought I'll get back in the car and I'll drive up the road about as far as that waterfall, and I'll park and I'll just walk in through the woods and see if I can find it. And I'll tell you what, it was just an amazing walk. This is out in the wild. There wasn't a soul around. It was so peaceful and quiet, and the woods it's almost like out of a fairy tale. It was amazing. It was just beautiful. And then I could hear the sound of the waterfall as I walked through the woods. It grew and grew as I got closer to it. And then the visual of the water, I got through the trees and there's this pool below the waterfalls. It was like I said, out of a fairy tale. It just was as beautiful as you could imagine. Out in the wild, not a soul around. I just found a rock where I could sit on the rock and cast out into the pool repeatedly. I didn't catch any fish out of that pool, and it didn't bother me one bit. I was in a little slice of heaven up here in the North Country that I would not have found if I didn't get out of the car and traipse through the woods.
Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is that setting that you can't find yourself in that same setting in other kinds of fishing. Trout fishing does give you kind of that entrance into this very special magical world that I've talked about so much. But being in a stream in the interior, like in the woods like that, I think that has a big part of the charm of being able to go fly fishing.
There's no question about it. I mean, trout. You're absolutely right. There's no other fishing besides trout fishing that puts you right in nature. I mean, flat in it, and you're walking. You're more often than not. I know you can float trout fish, but for me, my preference is get on a pair of waders and walk in the river and traipse through the woods and get out in the wild. And when you catch a fish out there, it just feels that much more special.
Well, here's the other thing. People are probably thinking, I'll bet you Russ is a fly fisherman, which you are, and you love to take your fly rod. But people can do the same thing that you're doing that aren't fly fishermen. Because you told me you ended up catching those fish. Well, you can tell them what you caught them on.
I caught them on a little straight line spinner on a little ultralight spinning rod. I went with the intention of fly fishing. I got on my waders, I set up my fly rod, I got out in the river. That river was tough to wade. I find some of the rivers around here are a little bit more difficult to wade than out west, because out west there's rocky, sandier bottoms, pebble bottoms.
It makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference when you're walking on big boulders in deeper water.
You're preaching to the choir here.
And this was it. And this was big boulders and deeper water, and I just struggled. I lost a few flies. I couldn't get where I needed to be. And I said, I was so glad I had my spinning rod. I went right back to the car. I kept the waders on so I could get knee deep in the river, just on the edge. Went back with my spinning rod right to the exact same spot I was with the fly rod. 6 casts in a row, and I was into fish. every time, and I caught 3 of them on a little straight line trout spinner.
That's amazing, because I think a lot of times people that have seen like a river runs through it or movies like that have drawn so many people into fishing think that the only way that you can experience that is becoming a great fly caster, and you really don't need to. And I know you catch muskies with a fly rod. I mean, it's just a way to feel the fish differently, I think, with a fly rod, because I sure can't cast well.
Catching a fish on a flat rod is a pleasure and a joy. It's an art. It's a skill that takes a lot of time to be able to cast well, and it's special. And then when you can do it, it's wonderful. It can be difficult though as well in some spots. And some spots it's a lot easier to open a spinning reel and toss it out there right in front of you and retrieve it. Okay. So there you go.
Well, folks, that's our lesson for this week in trout fishing. And until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner and Russ Eddy with the North Country Fishing Report.